question for the first, 15 minutes.
It's being recorded. No.
I didn't make any of these rules.
I know, we are. People want that.
Shlomo didn't ask any questions for the first 15 minutes.
So, many years ago, I spent the summer learning in Boston by Rabbi Soloveitchik. And Rabbi Yoshiber, Rabbi Soloveitchik used to use the term, which I had never heard before, which is appropriate to what we're talking about. There are certain things which he called, last night we called them inyanim, he called them kiyumim. A kiyum means literally a fulfillment. And, for example, any of the things we talked about last night, where to look, what to look at, what not to look at, it can be a kiyum in Yiras Hashem. In other words, the underlying principle, the underlying mitzvah in the Torah, which is the basis from which this is which is springboard for these types of things, is Yiras Hashem. And this is a kiyum in Yiras Hashem if one does it for the right purposes in the right way. So I think kiyum is actually a better word to use than inyan. Because inyan is very vague. It doesn't tell you anything other than, well, it's literally, as it translates, a matter, a thing. Right? But a kiyum means that there's some relevance, some anchor to this thing you're doing in some mitzvah. It's not the mitzvah itself, but it's a fulfillment in a certain way, in a certain aspect of the mitzvah. Okay? So, with that in mind, let's start for tonight's list. Okay, so we're still talking about things you should or should not look at. And as somebody mentioned last night, you're not supposed to look at a rainbow. That means you're not supposed to gaze at the rainbow. Right? To look is okay. It's the same language is used by women. Also, listakel be'isha. Listaklus is not the same thing as re'iyah. Listaklus means to gaze. And I guess it's not just the gaze doesn't just mean to stare, but rather means to stare intently. So therefore, to focus intently on a rainbow would be, according to Gemara Chagiga, a negative thing because it represents negativity.
You can't doctor that.
Sorry? There's the allusion to the Mabul.
Just halakha.
Again, these are all things which are beyond the normal letter of the law, but which a person, if he does it, exemplifies some aspect of Yiras Shamayim.
Couldn't it also be a positive thing? I mean, it means we're not going to be flooded again.
It could be, but that's not what the Gemara says. So I can only go with the Gemara. I don't make these things up. I just say them over. So it's a nice svara, but not going to get it for it. Wait. Now, just like it's usher to look, and I'm going to go a whole series of things now to look at. So maybe wait. Okay, the following several things are also listakel. Okay, so the Shulchan Aruch brings down it's also to gaze at the moon, because the moon represents Hashem says Haviu like kapara shemiati seirech, bring for me an atonement that I diminish the moon. So the moon represents kind of like a Chil Hashem, whatever that means, in that medrash over there where you diminish the moon. And at the time Kiddush Levana, you have to look before you make the bracha, of course, because you can only make a Birchas HaShebach after you look. So the praise Hashem only come after you look. So you're supposed to look up at the moon. In some Sidurim it says look at the moon once before the bracha, and then not to look again. Now, if you're studying astronomy, that might be something else, right? This is talking about focusing with intent on the moon when you are, now that you, till you came to the shir tonight, there wouldn't be anything wrong with you looking at the moon, because you didn't know about this. But now that you know about this, so now when you look at the moon, you're going to think, this represents the imbalance or unfairness, apparent unfairness in creation. I shouldn't look at it. You shouldn't look at it for an extended period of time. Yeah.
Yeah, how about if you're just thinking, it's a very nice sky, look at the stars and the moon, that's beautiful.
Well, if you don't focus on it, again, Histaklus means to gaze.
Okay, so if you're gazing at the moon itself because it looks nice, just because it looks nice.
The same thing with the rainbow.
That's just a kiyum, or is that halacha?
What? Well, it's brought down in Shulchan Aruch, but that doesn't mean necessarily it's not one of the lavin in the Torah, and it's not in Shas. So it's obviously not something which is strictly prohibited.
Do we ever paskin al pi midrashim?
No.
in Kabbalah?
No.
But Shulchan brings something.
Shulchan brings this down, but it's not. But it's, again, it's not based on the Gemara.
So is it talking about only if you have intent, or even if you don't have an intent?
I don't think they distinguish it. It just says it's also to look at the moon.
So if
Wait. Middle of these stockless things. Also, we talk about Avodah Zarah. You're not allowed to look at Avodah Zarahs. So that means that you shouldn't gaze at Buddhas or at.
but those aren't really idols. There's a statue of a guy who was basically a philosopher for them. They don't pray to the statue.
They venerate the statue. They put all sorts of offerings in front of it. That's enough. Anyway, look, who wants to spend looking at Buddha for a long time anyway? But the point, the Indian gods, stuff like that. So you're not supposed to look at Avodah Zarah. You're actually supposed to technically go 4 amos away from a place for Avodah Zarah. So in other words, you're not supposed to go very close, if you can avoid it, to Avodah Zarah, to we don't have that many true Avodah Zarahs in our day and age, but if you were to come upon a Hindu temple, so you should stay like 4 amos away from it. Churches, it's not so clear we regard it as Avodah Zarah. I mean, for us, yes, but yeah. So you can avoid a church, but you should not go. It said, the Gemara brings down a case of somebody who walked to the other side of the street. The Gemara says you shouldn't go give it covered. Don't go to the other side of the street, to avoid it. If you are 4 amos away, so then, or you can aim yourself 4 amos away, that's okay. But to deliberately go out of your way, it's a little bit iffy. Okay?
I have a question.
Yeah.
If you have a Talmid of Chacham teaching you, and it's a good boyo necha orasef morecha, but the other hand, you shouldn't look at women, gaze at women.
Right. You shouldn't have it. You shouldn't have a woman teaching you.
Oh.
Yes. There was actually a kid who wanted to switch from the school in which I teach during the day to another school, but he refrained from doing so because he found out that in the other school we'd have a woman Gemara Rebbe.
Oh, he does. But if he's better than the males around, then what? Just because of Yiras Shamayim, you
Just because of Yiras Shamayim?
No, but it's not.
Kol shiraso kredemes lechachmaso, chachmaso miskayemes.
It's far better Yiras Shamayim to be willing to advance in study.
Yeah. Nice try. No. No. Okay. Sorry. Now he brings down Rav Tzuriel here that he's not sure if to look at pictures in history books and encyclopedias is a problem. I think people do look at pictures in history books and encyclopedias.
Is that about the moon still?
No. Well, the truth would be about everything, right? So the very Haredi newspapers, they don't print pictures of women. So according to that shita, you wouldn't be able to look, I guess, at any of these things in the book either.
When we say look at the woman, we're saying even at the parts that are covered, meaning the fingers and the face. When we say those there,
even at the small finger, the Shulchan Aruch says.
But that's also gaze in terms of
right. It's stockless. That's what it is. It's stockless.
For sexual pleasure. What if you just looking at this woman? I like the photography, the picture they're taking with the lighting and everything makes the scenery look nice, and you push the door behind it. So that
Hashem Adam Yireh L'Einayim, Hashem Yireh L'Levav. God knows what's going on inside your heart. I might not, but He does.
With the same Buddhas, you go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art, you go to some other museum. You have these really nice sculptures that you are amazed that man could do such a thing.
Again.
So yes, he's in Athens
again.
Or Mars. So okay, but that's not my.
If you look at a Buddha and you come to amazing wonder and of Hashem and great cognition of Hashem's hashgacha, then that's okay.
Is this
how about
glaring or
what?
Is this glaring or glancing?
This is glaring. Gazing.
How about listening?
Glaring is with anger.
Yeah.
How about listening to a concert in a church and
I'm good at that.
the concert makes you what? The concert makes you.
You can stand outside the window. It's okay.
No, but it's not the same.
It's not the same. Yeah.
Well, we often interact with women. For example, what if you're sitting down with a female shadchan for an interview?
Don't talk about it.
Yeah, obviously, the one has to. This is a very difficult parameter to give when and what and where. Yeah, and there are obviously situations in which one has to look at women. One has to try to be aware in one's mind not to gaze, meaning not to be intently focused, but just look and look away, or look and just. One can look at things and not see them the same way. And one could not see them intently and focus on them intently. One could look at things and focus intently. You have to hachacham eina barosho. A wise man, his eyes are in his head, meaning he governs his eyes by what is right and proper at that time. And these are relative things, absolutely.
Don't you also have to be careful about Gevadam Chavero violations? But if you're a woman, she's an expert in medicine level, you want to listen to the lecture. Don't look at her, that people don't go to the lecture just because a female, she'll get hurt. She will offend.
Okay. So I understand when you look at her, you have to have a taiva for her also?
I'm saying.
She's going to be offended me.
No, of course not.
It's not your fault that she's hottie.
No, of course not. You don't have to have taiva for her.
Then you're okay.
But you say not to gaze.
Histaklus means intent focus. Intent focus means the assumption is you're driving ben hana from looking at it.
Hana, like because she's
aesthetic hana also.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. The one is not allowed. I never understood why the Haredi newspapers are willing to print pictures of Rishonim, but not women, because Gemara says also listaka b'pnei Rasha, b'nei Adam Rasha. So now look at a Rasha. So in theory, if you now shouldn't be allowed to print pictures of Hitler or Stalin or anybody of that sort.
But you would say, you have to know who you're looking at. You have to know who you have in mind, no?
Oh, no, you have to know you have in mind to hate. Is that what it is?
When we're saying the bracha from the Shemona
You have to know what he looks like.
I have to have in mind, like this is the guy. This is what
You can't just know the name.
You think you remember Ahmadinejad?
I saw Rabbi Dessau, he said that the two outcomes are possible when you look at the Russian. One is that he will have an influence over you. The other one is that you will hate so much, you'll see how disgusting he is. That will make you even go to right.
The assumption here is that it has to do with that upon the face of a wicked person there is an aura of wickedness which will impact upon you. Listen to the next one. This is from the Kaf HaChaim, one of the great Sfardi Achronim. So he says that you're not allowed to look at a person who is insane or going crazy, I guess even if he's not insane, or a depressed person.
We're not allowed to look at it in Twitter.
That's what makes him more depressed.
Kaf HaChaim says he's not allowed to look at a person who's insane, a person who's going crazy, like having a tantrum, or a person who is depressed.
I think we should disagree. What do you mean? Why is it this way? You've got to help him. How about
it's different. If you're a psychiatrist, fine.
Shabi, what you're playing a little game here. I'm not sure why. I don't know what you have, what's up your sleeve. But you know that all these things are relative. I explained at the beginning, they're kiyumim, not strict halachas. So now, what agenda do you want me to fulfill here?
Okay. People should be aware of it because you're going to the extreme because
Shabi just issued a disclaimer. Okay, the next one is also related. The Zohar HaKadosh says you're not allowed to look at a person who is angry. Again, the same idea.
One of those pictures of like BB, or some other politician.
I think that's also because Vas is talking from the Shaita, not because Vas is talking from the Kois, but let's look at the insane person. Yeah. So it's also to look at the countenance of a dead person.
What?
A person who's dead. The Muslims, the Arabs. When they have a levias, they leave the face exposed.
Oh, they know the Christians do also.
Sorry, the Christians also do that, right? So that's also. There was a whole story a couple of years ago when there was some people there was a terrorist killing near Kiryat Arba, in one of these yeshuvim where the people are, extremists, to put it mildly. So they decided they're going to bury him, a Jewish guy, from Jewish guy, with open face, like the Arabs. So there's a big outroar because it's not a Jewish custom.
Why do we when we kill somebody? Why do we string them up and leave them there then?
What?
When we
You're only supposed to do it briefly for like a minute.
What?
yeah, but you leave them for the day though.
No.
No.
Take, put him up, take him right down again.
No, it's still something.
What did you wait for?
It says Bakayomahu, but you're supposed to really put him up and take him right down.
People have to see. What's the purpose of going it for 1 minute? Nobody looks at it.
That's a good question. I guess they'll be there at the time and they'll see. So part of it is part of the embarrassment. But yeah, it's part of the embarrassment in any event. He's sinned. Yeah, he needs the atonement of the embarrassment. Right? Here, it's the dead person without the living neshama. There, I don't know if it's a tumah thing or if it's a bizayon for the mace. It's not, but it's you're supposed to avoid doing it. You also, this is one I never understood, but the Gemara also says you're not allowed to read the writing on a matzeva, on a tombstone, when it protrudes. Right? Arizal says when it protrudes, which we don't usually do among Jews. In Jews, usually it's engraved into the stone. And so, I'm not sure what that represents.
Yeah, they also in cemeteries you have that. I've seen it. In Ashkenazi cemeteries you see it often.
That's bolate.
No, protruding.
Protruding, right? I'm saying I'm not sure why it's also to read the Ksav on the kever.
No, you forget the Torah. That's
it doesn't mean, but why? Why?
I mean, what's the rationale?
Yes.
I don't know the Kabbalah behind it, but you forget the Torah.
It's a Gemara though. It's not a Zohar. The Magen Avraham says you're not allowed to look at a goy. Okay, is it a goy? So you see there are levels and levels and levels here. Okay? So,
I don't think it's appropriate.
and the Mishnah Berurah says that you're not supposed to go see the violent pastimes of the non-Jews, or their revelry, or their revels, or anything like that. I think it's also go to a bullfight specifically. Yeah.
Well, NFL is good. NFL is no problem.
No, if you go.
For that reason.
My father-in-law told me that his father was once watching a boxing match on television. So I asked him, "Why are you watching the boxing match?" So we have no. So he said in Yiddish, he said, "Ich gleich zu sein ein Goy schlagen die andere." I like seeing one guy slugging the other one. So if you're doing it for that reason, then I guess that would be okay.
You can't root for them.
Right?
You can't be rooting for one of the guys.
Yeah. Equal opportunity. Yeah.
It seems like the reason for not looking at it is like some sort of symbolic annihilation. Like, don't look at a crazy person.
No, most of them it's because of some aura which will impact upon you.
That's gay.
The face of a person reflects their essence. The face of a person's, whatever mood a person's in is reflected on their face. By looking at their face, you absorb that aura.
Like you don't look at a bullfight, don't look at...
You look at violent...
No, I said don't move, don't stare.
Why are we grouping all these people together?
Anything violent, anything which can provoke desire, anything which is wicked or inappropriate. These are all things that a person is supposed to avoid gazing at these things.
Corrupting.
Yeah. Again, it's not strict halacha. Okay, but this is something, it's like taking like Musar. This is something which you think about,
No, I understand. It just seems like by taking it at face value, it seems like you're...
Face value. No pun intended.
You're taking away the ability for, I would say, half the population, or more than half the population, to adequately participate in society.
You worried?
Yeah, I think it's
not for me, but for
It's a commentary on society.
yeah, I mean, I feel like why do we have to subject the people that are because we can't control ourselves?
Which of these bothers you the most?
I understand not gazing at women, but at the same time, it seems ridiculous in such a way that just because you can't control yourself, that she should have to suffer and be not allowed to have her face printed in a newspaper, despite the fact that she did discover the cure for cancer.
She has to have her face printed in a newspaper?
If it was a guy, trust me, they're gonna have his picture everywhere.
Yeah, but I'm saying, what?
Why can't she have the same honor?
No, it's not about pictures.
In our homes, we always put up these pictures of great rabbis and this great rabbi and that great rabbi, but you're never going to see this great tzaddiket who you know, gave all these women, you know, like brachot for children or this or that, or, you know, like, because there's great women Rebbitzins out there also doing great things, but it's not
it's all based on the principle. Listen, well, I wasn't like this, but it's all based on the principle of men being animals.
Yeah, but today we are better, I think.
No.
Because today, in order,
think so.
because today, in order to inflame any excitement, you've got to do much more. No?
One of the kids in the other school this morning said, you know, I was doing a program where his Rebbe was also in the room. He said, Rabbi, every day 200 new porn sites open up on the web.
This is a high school issue. What was this?
Yeah. The Rebbe said, I understand. The figures you would know. So what do you mean?
Yeshua Bacher knows this information from the school.
If you read it,
And he knows the statistics behind this.
You mean
the
first 300.
What about it?
So I don't think we're any better.
No, but I think even if you don't take the newspaper idea, just the mere fact that you don't allow women to give lectures, because they're not allowed to look at them.
Lectures and
She can be participant. She can be.
we're not saying look. We're saying we're specific.
Now, what do you want? I feel your pain. I feel your pain, but there's nothing I can do about it.
Why can't we
What?
say? Don't you agree? I think you agree, essentially.
Yeah, but I don't know if my wife would agree.
She is the lecturer. What do you mean?
No, but she doesn't like lecturing to men. She does. She gives class to men. She doesn't like lecturing to men. When she gives public shiurim, she likes only specifically to give to women.
Classes she gives to.
Okay, she has no choice because the classes she's giving are mixed.
Does she feel confined to or relegated to a confined space?
No, she holds it's more tznius. So, when you ask me whether it's fair or not fair, I am really not qualified to answer. You really have to ask the women whether they hold it's fair and not fair.
Right, so most
And some minutes, you know, you ran a poll.
Because you see in other
Because you think that
societies, they
You
don't.
see in other societies, but the question is in this society.
Alright, so let's do a poll. I think most likely they.
How do you know?
Who likes being stuck
If
behind
you
the
are, I
curtain?
mean,
What?
Who likes being stuck behind the curtain? Just like closed off from everybody.
How do you know I'm not sure. Again, it seems to us as males that they should resent it, but we have to really ask the females. As a matter of fact, one could make the argument that men are always during davening much more conscious of where they're standing, how they're seen, and what kibbudim they get in shul, right? Sorry?
Is that because they're bored?
No, because men are arrogant. They're arrogant and haughty. That's why in Judaism, the men have all these titles: Harav, Harav Agon, Harav Agon Agadol, Harav Atzadik, Harav Chassid. And then we have Zal, Zatzal, Zatzkavikalala, right? Nagma, all these Rashi Tevas. Because men, they have this crazy need for rank and pomp and circumstance. Women don't seem to have that need.
It's Adam the first.
Yes.
I think it's also possible there are some women who would be happy that not all men are just staring at them all day and only care about their physical body and actually care about them as a person. Maybe there are some women who care about themselves and are happier living in a place where not all the men are just looking at them.
What do you mean, maybe?
I mean, it could be. I'm just saying.
Maybe, I see the way I understood this halakha this whole time. If I go to a college class, let's say, and a lady's giving that shiur, whatever she's giving. So she's giving a shiur, I'm paying attention to the shiur, she's there, fine. So that's fine. But if I'm sitting there, and most of the time I'm looking at her, not because she's speaking, but because I'm observing the shape of her body, I'm observing her haircut, that's when this halakha comes. It tells you, you're probably allowed to go to the shiur, you should listen to the shiur, but don't go and stare at her. The issue is not being at the class and her giving you the class. The issue is you looking at her continuously instead of staring at her.
Right, that's true.
So what is everybody saying here? This is not fair or not fair. This is the class is given and depending on...
Why are you addressing me? Address him.
No, but
you were defending this opinion, so...
No, I say if that's the women.
But he didn't make that qualification.
The whole shiur is about gazing. This whole thing was about staring at a woman for physical desire.
Oh, fine. So according to this, it's possible for Talmid Chacham to give the class.
Yeah, it's possible.
There's a halach for us to give advice.
Brother, we're not worried about women having the same desires?
It's an interesting question. No, it's assumed that men are animals and women are human.
They're also animals.
But
Women were pure. They came from the man.
I don't think
not enough women before I became
They came from
religious
purified.
who would admit that they had crushes on teachers
Oh no, but it's
throughout time.
yeah, but their crushes on teachers are more romantic crushes than a crush is not the same thing as sexual desire. Men have desires. Women now, but the whole concept of women's liberation and feminism, which came afterwards, did change that to a certain extent. In other words, throughout human history, it was one way, and but then in the 60s and 70s, there was a deliberate movement to change it.
There's some that halacha in the Shulchan Aruch doesn't seem to paint that picture. It sounds like you have an obligation to her. In fact, you have an obligation, so it shows that she has that need.
Obligation to what?
For her satisfaction in marital happiness.
Yeah.
Whereas, why would you make such an obligation if that's not something she had a need for?
Because they have multiple wives, so they might focus on one and not on the other.
But even in the halacha, the halacha doesn't change any less when it's one wife.
Right, but the halacha that's still the halacha because of that. You would not. I don't think in a one-on-one relationship you would usually need such level specified.
We still push off major holidays, even I think Tisha B'Av.
No.
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 You sure?
Yes.
Even like Tisha B'Av, we don't push off.
No.
If that month it just happens.
No.
That really. Because
not Tisha B'Av and not Yom Kippur.
Okay, but other Yom Tovim we don't push them off.
Right. Correct.
Fine. So it's still see.
So here there's.
And other guys,
I understand, but
you see, there's
there is a. I understand. Okay, they have some. They're married. They have a desire, some desire, but there's not. It's not. It's.
I think the women are really.
Where are we going with this now?
I'll tell you. I think women are really they're not as open to admit this as men are, but I think the desire-wise is much more strong than men are.
I think you're out of your mind. Yes.
I think women have the same reactions that a man has.
Yes.
No, I think male are just more blatant about their desires, right? But it doesn't mean.
How many women's porn sites are there? How many men's porn sites are there? It's not. Wait, it's nonsense what you're saying.
It's not so bad. They're different style.
Different style. They're more tsanua about it. So.
We like heavy metal music.
You made a good point. How many men's trashy novels are there, and how many women's trashy novels are there? You go into Walmart and walk into the magazine.
They're all based on romance.
Fine, but romance leads to something else.
Okay, on we go. It's forbidden to this is a Gemara in beginning Baba Basra. You're not allowed to stand in your friend's field when it's fully grown, because you might give an ayin hara, and to look askance, and that will arouse prosecution in Shamayim against the successful crops.
What's the neighbor? Well, he's not Jewish king. Because it's part.
But if you don't believe in Ayin,
It has to be somebody who somebody good.
if you don't believe in Ayin,
The Rambam doesn't bring this down, but he might believe. Even if you don't, he might. And still, you shouldn't do it. You both have to eat Maimonideans in order for this to be okay. Not just you, him too. Yes.
so much I have to.
Because otherwise, you're just causing him unfair anguish.
Yeah, but I think it doesn't happen at all.
That doesn't matter. He does.
Hold on.
So how about home? Maybe if he has a nice, like a huge castle, he doesn't.
Funny you should say that, because the next one is you're not allowed to look from outside into your friend's house because of privacy, but you're also not supposed to open a window opposite your friend's house. And it could be, yes, that if you go into your friend's house and you see all his opulent decorations, right, that it would be, and you were
But he made many walks of art just for you to see, right? So you really want it. I know. How far you take it?
as far as your friend is sensitive to it.
Well, he's not a friend.
Rabbi, the Rambam didn't hold an ayin hara.
No.
Then why are the Timani so worried about ayin hara?
They're not. Obviously, they're not consistent with it. There's some Teimanim some Teimanim were exposed to Kabbalah and some weren't. So there are the ones who are not anti-Kabbalistic, those are completely Maimonidean, but then they're Kabbalistic ones.
Like extremely Kabbalistic.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, and I know there's this woman in I think Long